the custody was only a matter of procedure. Usually in money laundering cases under the PMLA, the request of the Enforcement Directorate to get custodial interrogation is usually honored by the court. Tell us what follows from here on. Once Sanjay Raut goes to the Enforcement Directorate custody, what is the procedure of questioning which is followed? Is it written? Is it oral? Is it recorded?
So there are two options of doing it. PMLA statements are usually written. There are two options. Either you can write it or you can get it dictated. So in the room wherever the interrogation happens, the IO along with the DD, the Deputy Director, and a typist usually sits inside the room. They type the answers, whatever, and then each and every page is basically signed by the accused. Because any statement under Prevention of Money Laundering Act is accepted as evidence in the court of law. So here, any statement given is very, very important. If you remember, even in the case of National Herald, Rahul Gandhi was being very, very cautious. So here, obviously, Sanjay Raut is also going to be very cautious on what he says before the Enforcement Directorate. So there are two options. Either you can have a handwritten statement, or you can get it typed. But then after the statement is taken, then usually the Enforcement Directorate moves for extra days of custody. Let's see if the Enforcement Directorate gets that extra days of custody or not. But here, since as Vinaya was saying, the court is very clearly, it's very clearly from the what the court says. The court says that there is prima facie evidence of laundering and Sanjay Raut being and his family members being the beneficiary of laundered money. So here, obviously, since they are beneficiary of tainted or scam tainted money or laundered money, then it's going to be tough for them. They might get extension on post 4th of August. Getting bail in PMLA is becoming very difficult because the court, especially if you would have seen the observations of the court, Supreme Court recently, they said that laundering money is as bigger a crime as terrorism. So the courts are taking money laundering as very, very seriously. Enforcement Directorate has been given immense powers to curb laundering. So here, it won't be easy for Sanjay Raut in days to come.
And as my colleague rightly pointed out, that it was always difficult to get a bail once you have been booked under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. And all those provisions of the PMLA have been upheld by the Supreme Court. That means the prima facie view of the court should be that either you are not in any way involved, or if you go out on a bail, you are unlikely to tamper with the evidence. Either of these two findings a court has to reach for you to be getting bail. And in various high-profile cases, Ashish, we have seen that whether it was Mr. Karti Chidambaram, Mr. P. Chidambaram, or other high-profile political cases, to secure a bail has been a very, very tricky job.
It is, and let me tell you, Anusha, the most important, it's not only about high-profile cases in the past, but even in the current case, what the court is going to take very, very seriously is the complaint that has been filed by Swapna Patkar. In fact, Enforcement Directorate also mentioned during their application that Swapna Patkar, who's one of the witnesses in the case, she was being threatened by certain people who were close to Sanjay Raut. So the court will obviously take these kind of activities very, very seriously. If somebody who is basically a witness in the case, he's being threatened. So it is, if such things happen, then in all likelihood the court will never give you a bail, because you can tamper with evidence, you can threaten witnesses. So in such circumstances, why should court give you a bail? So even if on the medical grounds, the argument was there from the side of Sanjay Raut, but that argument had fallen flat, and that is why 4 days of custody has already been granted. So 12 hours of questioning from morning 10 to evening 10 is going to be a tough task for Sanjay Raut to answer certain questions. They're going to be tough questions that are going to come from Enforcement Directorate sleuths.
Okay, Ashish, I'll come back to you. I'll talk to you more about the witness, and I'll also talk to you about the money trail, which is at the heart of any money laundering investigation. But for now, cutting across to my colleague Vinaya Deshpande, who's tracking all the developments from the court. Vinaya, if you can encapsulate for us what transpired in the court today, what were the arguments from both the sides?
Well, there is some network problem, but let me break it on air, please. This message is not going on WhatsApp. I've been trying to send. These are some very important observations that the special judge has made, and let me read out what the special judge has said in his order. This is extremely crucial. He says that considering the compass of inquiry and volume of matter, I strongly feel that custodial interrogation is necessary. It cannot be ignored that already charge sheet has been filed against Praveen Raut long ago. Everything is already documented and available for prosecution to investigate. Even trail of money in accused wife's bank account can be investigated by obtaining bank statements. Therefore, in my opinion, long ED custody for 8 days is not warranted in order to investigate crime thoroughly. Prayer of ED custody deserves to be allowed partly. Accused is remanded to ED custody till August 4. So this was Special Judge M. D. Deshpande who has spoken. I have with me Sunil Raut, who has